Hey there, I am Julie Hirschberg, the owner of Re+active Physical Therapy and Wellness, and I am bringing you part 3 of the Where Do I Start series. And this one is probably my favorite. I think it rings true for me very personally. And we've got another handy little diagram for you. So today we're talking about where do I start when somebody might have a flare or something changes in their symptoms. And we're gonna use one of our favorite diagrams. We use this in a lot of our presentations, in talking about a person's journey, and we use it in a lot of education with the people that we work with to talk about this typical pathway. So the first thing that I'm gonna tell you, we're gonna talk about 3 things here. We're going to talk about starting before the flare. So that's number 1. We're going to talk about normalizing it. And then we're going to talk about continuing to build resources. So let's talk about starting before the flare. So I know I said this is about where do I start when there is a flare? Well, the answer is start before it even happens. And that's why I love this picture. It's why I love the lovely analogy from David Butler and the NOI group with the Toblerone. Both of these are really nice ways to talk through and set up the expectations for this to happen. So let me take you through Chelsea Richardson with the lovely drawing here. This was put together for our CSM presentation. Once again, we got the little brain driving the car. So when we start that treatment journey, we can start by understanding and talking about that we are going to see some improvements and recovery. But along the way, there will likely be flares. There will be things that impact the nervous system. And there's this lovely little graph. You can see it here at the bottom. This is from neurosymptoms.org, that amazing website for functional neurologic disorders. It kind of shows this over time and these hills and valleys and ups and downs. But overall, the trajectory is one of recovery. So we use that, and we've put it even in our little handout when we describe this to people, to expect it. Expect that things will change. Now, what's important is to not then go, oh, things are gonna get really bad, and so any day now expect a flare. Like, that's not what we're talking about. Just normalizing it. So this is the second step. Like, hey, our nervous systems are sensitive. I know that if it's about to be finals, I teach at USC, so I'm prepping a final, I'm getting students ready, I'm under a little more stress. Some of my own symptoms are going to be worse. I have thoracic outlet syndrome. Some of those, my arm's gonna be a little more numb or tingling over that time. It's normal and it's expected. And when I expect it, then I go, oh, that's what that is. It's not something new that I need to be scared of. It's there. And then the third piece, so we prepare in advance, we normalize it, and then the third piece, we build resources for when that's going to happen. And then in the moment, actually recognize those resources. So for example, just asking the person, what do you typically do when you realize that there's a flare and your symptoms are changing? What do you do that helps? And they can actually really, usually quite well identify, well, I could do this, this, and this. Okay, great. What do we need to build up on those resources? Also helping them recognize, like, well, what happened, do you think? So understanding some of those triggers when there's a flare. Okay, so you slept 2 hours last night. Could that be one of the triggers? How can we maximize your sleep in the next few days? So building on resources and helping a person recognize those resources within the flare, and building on new resources too. Maybe you never needed an extended exhale breath to tone the parasympathetic nervous system. Maybe you didn't need that before, but you need it now because we're in a pandemic. So I think this one is very appropriate for now. A lot of the people that we're seeing in telehealth during this virus time, their nervous system is under a lot more of the sympathetic drive. The fight or flight is high, and they might be in the midst of a flare. So use any kind of visual. You can use your Toblerone, you could use the little hills and valley, you can use the brain driving car, whatever it is. I think it's nice to have a visual. Prepare before the flare, normalize it, and then continue to build on those resources. So I want to give you a very personal story. Why these things ring so true for me. So maybe you didn't know this, but I have rheumatoid arthritis. I was diagnosed, gosh, it's been about 15 years or so. And when I was diagnosed, the physician actually told me, look, here's going to be your pathway. Downhill, the flares are going to get worse. You're going to be worse. Don't even think about breastfeeding your babies because you're going to need to be on medication right away. And he painted this picture of total downhill decay and decline, and that I would never lead a normal life. He did not build a picture of flares are normal and we're going to be able to manage them. Not at all. And so later on, when I changed physicians and really started working with somebody who said, hey, yeah, this is doable. Yes, breastfeed your babies. Yes, we'll make it work for you. Yes, you might have to take more medication, but we'll keep building your resources. What else can we do? Let's look at nutrition. Let's look at exercise. Let's start doing yoga and build the resources up. And honestly, it was when I finally worked with a really amazing physical therapist, Annie Austin. I might have to send you this video because she could see how scared I was of the flare and scared of the downhill decline. And this was after I had my kids and I was off medication and I was in a really big flare. I had difficulty moving. And she said, and started working with me, like, let's work on your resources. You've got things going for you. Let's just keep building and building and building. And we built them up slowly. And most importantly, I built up my confidence that I could manage the hills and valleys. Rheumatoid arthritis, a lot of those autoimmune diseases come with flares and hills and valleys. And that piece started there, and I'm so thankful. I think physical therapists have a very special role and ability to do this, to listen and understand where the person in front of them might be feeling a sense of loss of control and fear in a diagnosis where there might be flares, and it comes with anything, autoimmune, pain, a lot of our neurologic diseases, and being able to be right there with them, preparing for it, normalizing it, building the resources, and the hope that when you're in a flare, it's not there forever. So I just wanted to share that personal story with you. Thanks so much for joining us for the 3-part series here on Where Do I Start? I hope that you will continue listening deeply with the people in front of you and getting in there and really helping them regain their lives. Thanks so much.